6 reasons why people leave you after 70 and how to stop it, even your family. Have you ever found yourself contemplating why individuals gradually withdraw as you advance in years? Perhaps certain companions no longer telephone with their former frequency, relatives seldom visit as they once did, or invitations to social gatherings begin to diminish. This phenomenon can prove profoundly vexing, even agonizing, to perceive oneself being progressively excluded. However, the underlying reality remains that tangible explanations exist of this occurrence, and encouragingly, numerous factors reside within your sphere of influence. In this discourse, we shall examine 6 principal catalysts that precipitate relational distancing during one's later years. These are not haphazard circumstances, but rather identifiable behaviors, attitudes, and patterns that unconsciously repel others. Once illuminated, these elements become amenable to modification. Change is capable not only of reinforcing existing bonds, but of preserving meaningful connections for years to come. I urge you to continue reading until the conclusion, as several of these reasons may prove unexpectedly revealing. More critically, we shall explore actionable strategies to circumvent these pitfalls and sustain robust, enduring relationships with those who matter most. If you have experienced the disquieting sensation of people slipping from your life, remain engaged. What follows may fundamentally alter your perspective. Let us commence our examination. 1. The peril of stagnation, neglecting personal evolution. Among the most significant factors contributing to relational erosion in later life is the cessation of personal development, intellectually, emotionally, or socially. An individual who persists in evolving, acquiring knowledge, and engaging with the world maintains their capacity to intrigue and relate. Conversely, when one resists novel experiences, rejects learning opportunities, or refuses adaptation, they become increasingly challenging to connect with on meaningful levels. Consider this dichotomy. When conversing with someone who demonstrates curiosity, open-mindedness, and continuous intellectual expansion, the exchange feels invigorating and contemporary. By contrast, interactions with individuals who exclusively reference bygone eras, dismiss innovative concepts, or resist any deviation from established patterns inevitably grow repetitive and, ultimately, emotionally taxing. The distancing occurs not through sudden abandonment, but through gradual, unconscious withdrawal as others find engagement increasingly unrewarding. Personal growth transcends mere hobby acquisition or literary consumption. It encompasses maintaining cognitive agility, posing thoughtful inquiries, and demonstrating authentic interest in the surrounding world. When these practices wane, the diminishment becomes perceptible to one's social circle. Imagine 2 septuagenarians. The first remains intellectually vibrant, inquiring about emerging technologies, viewing thought-provoking documentaries, engaging in literary discourse, and valuing intergenerational knowledge exchange. The second dismissively waves away anything unfamiliar with declarations like, "I'll never understand all this newfangled nonsense," or "Everything was superior in my youth." Which individual would you anticipate receiving more social invitations, telephone calls, and sustained relational investment? The distinction proves self-evident. While comfort and routine proves natural with advancing years, sustained engagement with life remains an active choice. Mastery of every contemporary trend or technological innovation is unnecessary, but cultivating receptivity, demonstrating inquisitiveness, and preserving adaptability profoundly influence how others perceive and respond to you. Continued evolution invites sustained connection. Stagnation prompts gradual estrangement as others progress while you remain stationary. The encouraging reality? Transformation remains perpetually possible. Whether exploring an unfamiliar skill, reading beyond habitual genres, or simply enhancing conversational curiosity through probing questions, the conscious decision to grow can revitalize relationships. People instinctively gravitate toward those who move forward, not those entrenched in the past. 2. The corrosive effect of chronic negativity. Few behaviors precipitate social isolation more rapidly than persistent pessimism. Should you habitually lament health concerns, criticize younger generations, condemn governmental operations, or idealize past epochs at the expense of the present, you may inadvertently engineer your own relational exile. While you may perceive these expressions as harmless honesty or justified critique, others likely interpret them as exhausting negativity. Reflect upon your own experiences. How do you feel after prolonged exposure to someone who consistently highlights life's disappointments, fixates on physical ailments, or identifies flaws in every circumstance? Emotional fatigue inevitably follows, and with it, an instinctive inclination toward reduced contact. This observation does not advocate for artificial cheerfulness or suppression of legitimate concerns. All individuals require opportunities for authentic sharing, particularly regarding life's genuine difficulties. The critical distinction lies in equilibrium. When conversations predominantly emphasize frustration, discomfort, regret, or dissatisfaction, regardless of their validity, even the most devoted companions may unconsciously limit their engagement. Human nature draws us toward individuals who uplift rather than deplete. Those who cultivate gratitude, curiosity, humor, and balanced perspective create social environments others willingly enter. The energy one brings to interactions determines their relational sustainability. Envision two elderly gentlemen at a family reunion. The first monopolizes discussions with complaints about chronic pain, traffic inconveniences, and perceived erosion of respect for elders. The second shares amusing anecdotes, inquires about others' well-being, and identifies positive aspects of the gathering. The contrast in social magnetism becomes immediately apparent. Emotional resonance operates contagiously. People naturally cluster around those who illuminate rather than shadow. Should you perceive relational attrition, conduct an honest audit of your conversational tendencies. Do you contribute warmth, interest, and connection, or has complaint become your default mode? Even moderate recalibration toward balanced expression can dramatically alter your relational landscape. 3. The erosion of unnurtured relationships. Relational bonds cannot sustain themselves indefinitely without deliberate cultivation. Among the most prevalent yet overlooked reasons for social diminishment in later life is the unconscious expectation that others will perpetually assume the burden of maintenance. Examine your recent relational patterns. When last did you initiate contact without external prompting? How recently have you extended a social invitation? Have your communications become exclusively need-based? Many operate under the assumption that authentic care manifests through others' unwavering pursuit of connection. Reality demonstrates otherwise. Relationships deteriorate through unilateral effort. When individuals perceive themselves as sole cultivators of connection, always making the call, always arranging the visit, always checking in, their commitment inevitably wanes. This principle does not demand grandiose gestures. A spontaneous text message, a brief telephone call to express remembrance, or a casual invitation for coffee can powerfully communicate continued valuation. These actions signal that the relationship retains priority rather than existing as an afterthought or utility. Contrast two elderly individuals. The first regularly contacts friends and family, demonstrates interest in their lives, and initiates shared experiences. The second remains largely uncommunicative except when requiring assistance or wishing to vent frustrations. The relational trajectories diverge unmistakably. People crave appreciation, not utility. Reconnection remains perpetually possible. Should recognition dawn that you permitted connections to lapse, begin modestly. A concise message, a brief call, or reference to a prior shared memory. The essence lies in consistency rather than intensity. You need to maintain constant contact, but when others perceive genuine ongoing interest, they reciprocate. For the isolation of inflexibility. Contemporary existence evolves with accelerating velocity, and those who thrive socially in later years typically demonstrate adaptability rather than resistance to change. A primary contributor to relational distancing emerges when individuals become excessively rigid, rejecting technological advancements, dismissing evolving social paradigms, or refusing to comprehend modernity's trajectory. This phenomenon extends beyond mere technophobia. When others perceive that meaningful dialogue proves impossible because you automatically reject their perspectives, they gradually disengage. Consider how dramatically communication modalities have transformed in recent decades. Younger generations rely on digital platforms, texting, social media, video calls, as primary connection tools. Persistent declarations like, "I don't understand these new gadgets," or "real conversation only happens face-to-face," erect unnecessary barriers. The issue transcends technology. Evolving attitudes toward relationships, career paths, and daily existence differ markedly from prior generations. Constant criticism of how easy young people have it, or what's wrong with the world today, creates relational friction. When interactions feel like debates rather than exchanges, distancing occurs. Adaptability does not necessitate wholesale adoption of every modern trend. It requires basic curiosity, asking questions rather than issuing condemnations, attempting minimal engagement with contemporary tools, and recognizing that societal progression is inevitable. Imagine two grandfathers interacting with grandchildren. One dismisses their interests, ridicules their music, and constantly compares present unfavorably to past. The other asks thoughtful questions about their lives, attempts to understand their world, and finds points of connection. The relational contrast speaks for itself. While change and unsettle, flexibility sustains connection across generations. 5. The burden of excessive dependence. Healthy relationships balance give and take. When one party becomes excessively reliant, emotionally, physically, or financially, without reciprocal contribution, relational strain emerges. As aging introduces legitimate needs for assistance, the manner in which support is requested and acknowledged critically impacts relationship sustainability. People willingly assist those they cherish, but when A begins feeling obligatory rather than voluntary, reluctance develops. Evaluate your support networks. Do you express consistent gratitude for assistance rendered? Do you maintain whatever autonomy circumstances permit? Do you offer non-material support, wisdom, emotional availability, life experience in return? Emotional dependence proves equally taxing. If every conversation centers exclusively on your difficulties without reciprocated interest in others' experiences, even devoted companions may unconsciously withdraw. Consider two scenarios. An elder constantly requests favors but never acknowledges the effort, assumes perpetual availability, and offers nothing in return. An elder expresses genuine appreciation for help, maintains maximum feasible independence, and provides emotional support when possible. The first scenario breeds resentment. The second fosters mutual care. Even small contributions, sharing knowledge, expressing pride in others' accomplishments, or simply listening, restore relational equilibrium. 6. The toxicity of unrelenting resentment. No dynamic erodes relationships more insidiously than harbored bitterness. Advanced years often accumulate legitimate grievances, past betrayals, familial disappointments, perceived injustices. However, when these wounds remain perpetually open through constant revisitation, they poison relational wells. People instinctively avoid those who rehash decades-old conflicts, attribute current dissatisfaction to past events, demand continual acknowledgement of historical wrongs. Such behavior transforms interactions into emotionally draining encounters rather than life-giving exchanges. Many don't realize why they become distant from someone perpetually bitter. Others recognize the toxicity, but abandon attempts at reconciliation, perceiving futility. Forgiveness proves challenging yet liberating. It does excuse harm but releases its continuing damage. Those who focus on present possibilities rather than past injuries maintain far richer relational landscapes in later life. Concluding reflections. As we synthesize these observations, engage in honest self-assessment. Do any patterns resonate with your experiences? If so, perceive this not as indictment but opportunity. Social isolation in later life is not inevitable. Meaningful relationships in your 70s and beyond require the same fundamental elements as earlier decades: mutual growth, balanced perspective, intentional cultivation, adaptive flexibility, reciprocal support, and emotional freedom. The individuals who thrive relationally in later years are those who bring light rather than drain energy, who adapt rather than condemn, who invest rather than assume. The choice remains yours. Will you implement small, consistent changes to nurture enduring connections, or permit avoidable patterns to isolate you? The quality of your relationships in later years depends less on others' actions than on your own. We invite your reflections. Which insight resonated most profoundly? What single adjustment will you implement to strengthen your relational world? Your engagement enriches our community. For further content designed to inform and inspire, please subscribe. Your support enables us to continue providing meaningful resources. Thank you for your thoughtful attention. May your relational journey grow ever richer.